Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Draft Thunder. I am Andrew.
I'm Ben, and this is our new addition, John Claude.
Welcome, John Club. So today we will be talking about the NFL season and what comes with it. So, starting off our debate today, we will talk about the win totals that we like best. Now, the win totals will be changing, as it goes, as it gets closer to, I assume it goes day one? First game?
Up until first game, up until that team plays the first game, I believe. So it'll change with injuries and whatnot. But as of today, July 28th.
Yeah. So, to start out with it, my win total that I'm choosing is Houston over 8.5 wins. Now, this is not only because I like Houston as a team, they are a team that I would also pick to be a dark horse to win the Super Bowl, actually. I'm a big fan of what they can do both on offense and defense. They have playmakers on both sides of the ball. But I think 8.5 wins is way too low for them. I believe that they will make the playoffs and do that. You usually have to get 9 wins, unless you're the Seahawks.
Yeah, 7-9.
Right? I think 8-1 maybe, something like that.
That doesn't.
8-7-1, something like that. But yeah, so I think that they'll get to 9 wins, and they really haven't changed too much. They have added
Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann Mathieu and Deshaun Gibson, and they have like a few more players that are just developing. Like Deshaun's getting older, the whole team is growing together, in my opinion, and I just think they have the capabilities to win.
DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best receiver in the league at this point, and Will Fuller has an amazing chemistry with
That's true.
Deshaun.
Hopefully he stays healthy.
Yeah, I wrote them down as my third pick in case Andrew took my first two, even though we're only giving one. So my win total I'm going with is the Tennessee Titans under 8. So I'm going to stay in that same division. That same division. And this is just to say that the Titans are the worst team in that division. I think Jacksonville will bounce back a little bit. We'll touch on Nick Foles a little later in the podcast and what he adds to that team. But Tennessee and Jacksonville will probably be at the bottom of that division. Indy obviously showed what they're made of last year. And we just talked about Houston, how we expect them to probably at least compete for a playoff spot. So that bakes in probably at least 2 losses, maybe even 3 or 4 to those top teams. Big suspension to Taylor Lewan for the first 4 games. Those first 4 games are no cakewalk. They go to Cleveland, home for Indy, at Jacksonville on a Thursday night, at Atlanta. That's not exactly an easy stretch of games, 3 road games without their best tackle. I project 1-3, but could see them starting off 0-4, and then they still got to play the Chargers, they got to play the Saints, they got to play the Chiefs. They still have to play Indy, they still have to play Houston twice. I don't see where 8 wins comes from. They didn't really change much. Their big wide receiver upgrade after their horrible wide receiver year last year was Adam Humphries. So take that as you will. I think under 8 is a pretty good bet for them.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk on Jacksonville, but I think they'll rebound a little bit, be a little tougher team to come past now. And really nobody in that division is a cakewalk besides kind of Titans in our opinion. So that will be the win totals that we are giving out for now. And moving on, what do we have next?
So now we're just going to talk about some of the trends from last year and sort of how to build an optimal roster during the regular season, in our opinion. This is different from preseason. Obviously, we'll have our own weekly show for preseason as they come along. But for overall roster building during the regular season, this will be your one-stop shop for what we think will be the best way if you're deciding between players or whatever the case may be to say, this is how I should go about building this roster to take down some GPPs, hopefully.
Okay. So I would say to start out with, one of the big things I look for is trends. Mm-hmm. So basically seeing how the matchups go with each other, like let's say a receiver, if they're hot, they'll usually stay hot. They're going to be getting the targets. If you see a lot of targets coming their way in the first few games, it's normally going to stay that way. And seeing also how big like cornerbacks are giving up those receptions to other teams who are getting a lot of targets, and seeing how well they're reacting to it and basically doing the wide receiver cornerback matchups. Those are huge, especially while we go through the preseason. It'll be looking at past years and seeing how teams play certain people in certain games, which we'll get into, as we said, as we go more along. But that's the main focus that we'll be seeing.
Yeah. So kind of getting into it, I think we said this last year, but again, we really want to emphasize those DraftKings defense ratings that you see on the side of the screen don't hold too much value, especially in wide receiver or quarterback matchups. Just thinking about a team might have a number one shutdown corner that's going to show them at sixth best against the pass, but a number two receiver might be, or their number two corner might be the worst in the league or something like that. And those rankings just really don't reflect that. So really diving into wide receiver cornerback matchups is something that is necessary for this week-to-week game, and going beyond that, sort of looking at maybe what side cornerbacks play on, because as the game goes on, we see less and less of these corners that are shadowing wide receivers. So it does make it tougher for the research end, but if you can find that edge, which we will be doing throughout the year, we'll be providing those valuable matchups and hopefully fading the public when it comes to a team that might be green on DraftKings, but you might not want to play a certain receiver against a certain side or something like that.
Yeah, I think last year when Adam Thielen had one of his biggest games, he obviously plays in the slot, which we see a lot. He was going against some team who ranked really high in DBs. I think it might have been the Eagles. The Eagles sound right. And then their slot corner is like the worst in the league, or maybe the Saints. One of those two sounds right to me. But he had the biggest game of the year against them, and he was in the red.
Right.
So it shows that definitely go more into the stats, because that is where you will get the edge over the other players who are just blindly picking.
Yeah, and I think just going off of that in terms of bankroll management, I mean, if you're gonna play for money and on DraftKings or FanDuel, I think it's a good thing to do to put in the time and put in the research and not just blindly make lineups, because then you're just feeding the pot, and we thrive on those players that do that. But for our listeners, we want you all to take down some GPPs, and we want to see the results. So
another thing to do real quick, if so as we get this, probably this fifth year we have DraftKings and FanDuel around the U.S., it's getting harder. It's definitely, there's more experienced players. Everyone is actually doing the research now and getting more into it. So the slightest edge that you can get, and the more to make your lineup unique, is how you're going to be successful.
Correct. So the first trend I'm going to talk about is just the overall sort of chalk versus unique sort of, not formula, but how you might want to go about it, because I think when we think about these high stake GPPs, maybe the Millie Maker or even higher price contests on DraftKings or whatever, we kind of start to think, okay, well, this is a high stake contest. I need to play these really unique players across the board. And when we look at the numbers, that's really not true. I believe it said if to win the Millie Maker, you needed two guys under 10%, or maybe it was even just one guy under 5% owned. That was the majority of lineups that would win that contest. So thinking about it in that terms, you can eat chalk. So if there's a really low price running back that's in a great spot because of an injury or whatever the case may be, don't try to get too cute. Eat the chalk, play the value. It opens up the rest of your lineup to be unique. So that 4K Damian Williams play,
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin is we should probably talk about him more later, because without Adam Humphries there, he's going to see a lot of targets in the slot. Yeah. Whatever the case may be. Eat that chalk, get your points from that, be with the crowd on that, and then differentiate somewhere else. If you have a feeling about a quarterback, do that. Do it one or two plays off, and then the rest of the lineup can be sort of mainstream. Maybe you have a couple guys at the mid-teen percentage. But if you have to play a guy that's 40%, don't try to get too cute. Play the guy, get your points from it, and then differentiate at other positions.
Well, little camera shaking from
both
of us. No, it's okay. Yeah, so I think we covered that pretty well. There's a learning curve that comes into DraftKings and FanDuel and trying to win those GPPs, and hopefully we'll be able to take one down this season, or one of you guys can. Yeah.
A couple other things. The quarterbacks that we saw most outdo their projection, so five times the salary that they are they all had one thing in common, and that's that they added value with the running game. That meaning that they themselves run, so they have some sort of mobility to either gain 40 yards on the ground themselves, run in for a touchdown. So you're going to be looking at your Lamars, your Mahomes. I mean, no one's going to come out. Obviously, Mahomes being a good fantasy quarterback is not groundbreaking news, but he could be good in some cases, even against a bad defense, a good defense, because he adds value. Lamar, no one's going to come out here and say he's the best thrower of the ball and he's the most accurate, but he adds that value because he can run the ball. You look at your Cam Newtons, those kind of guys that kind of bring in the other side and can get you points in other ways tend to be the quarterbacks that we see do the best in these slates.
Yep, and they end up being one of the safest because they run. You're going to get those usual yards that they run every game. When Lamar started last year and he started starting games, I played him probably every week.
Yeah.
Or close to every week because you knew you were getting those, 60 to 100 yards, somewhere around that range.
Yeah, their floor is definitely higher, and then their upside throwing the ball might be limited, but I think Lamar against Cleveland ran in for 2 touchdowns in Week 17.
I think so.
And those count more than passing touchdowns anyway, so you don't really care about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's just something to keep an eye on. That doesn't mean always fade quarterbacks that don't run the ball, because as these running quarterbacks go up against better defenses, they tend to turn the ball over more. But it's just something to keep an eye on, especially if you're between players or between salaries. Something to think about.
Yep. So let's move on because we are running low on time. What is next?
So now we're going to do either newly drafted players or players that switch teams, and just give our quick thoughts about our sort of idea of what they might do this year. So first, I'm going to play a game. It's going to be a blind resume between 2 quarterbacks. Quarterback A threw for 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, had a 99 QBR. Quarterback B threw for 4,355 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, had a 97.7 QBR. Which quarterback do you want?
The stats got a little mixed up there, but I'm assuming QBA, better QBR.
Slightly better QBR. Essentially, they're very similar stats. That was a trick question. They're pretty much the same stats. Okay, now let me add this in the equation. Quarterback A got sacked 40 times. Quarterback B got sacked 21. Can you guess who they are?
Someone with a terrible line and somebody with a much better line. Is one Drew Brees?
No, that was going to be the third quarterback I talked about.
Okay.
But I didn't add him in.
Ben Roethlisberger?
No.
Matt Ryan? I don't know.
No. Quarterback B is Tom Brady.
Okay.
Quarterback A is Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
I think a lot of people hate Kirk Cousins, and I don't want you guys to be scared to play him. I think his line, if they play any better and he's not running scared for his life, he can provide insane value in these early weeks. He has 2 top 10 receivers, and I just think that could be sort of an edge because no one likes Kirk Cousins. For whatever the case might be, they don't like his antics, they don't like whatever it is. But as you can see, he pretty much ranks right next to Tom Brady. Drew Brees, I also put on this list. He ranks pretty similar to Drew Brees. And people will not be playing Kirk no matter what matchup it is because they just don't think he's a good quarterback. Yeah. That's just an example of not listening to Twitter trolls and not listening to all these people that like, this guy sucks. Put it, like we said, do the research, understand what player you're getting, and maybe that's one way, especially in the early weeks. If his line plays any better, I really expect them, the Vikings and Kirk, to have a better year.
Yeah, week 1, he is cheaper than Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. So that shows you about where he's at.
Yep. So at 5,500, and that's going to be an up-paced game against Atlanta.
Yep.
Just a thought. Anyway, we'll go into some players now. So we're going to start at quarterback. We'll go with the drafted guys first. So I'll lump these 2 in together just because they're in similar situations. So Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins may or may not start right away. We don't think Jones will start right away. I don't know that Haskins will either. I don't expect much from either of them this year. On a week-to-week basis, perhaps, but this could go into season long too. I don't really know that you'll be seeing them too much and how productive they'll really be. I don't expect the Redskins to be too good. I don't expect the Giants to be too good. So overall, I think those 2 guys you can kind of watch them produce in preseason, maybe watch them progress throughout the regular season, but not really relevant for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, there's a lot about Case Keenum saying how Dwayne Haskins is so talented, a lot coming out about that, and saying that he's having a good training camp, which is all fun and nice. But when you look at the reality of it, they do not have any weapons.
Yeah.
So
Trey Quinn is starting
Jeremy Sprinkle's out there, he might catch a few passes.
He probably doesn't catch any passes. So.
And they still have Jordan Reed if he can stay healthy, Vernon Davis, but not too many receivers. Yeah. Josh Doxson.
Trey Quinn starting at slot, and I know he had a nice year last year, but
That's just because no one else is out there.
Yeah.
So they have Paul Richardson still. They have a bunch of average and below average.
Guys should be back, but yeah, I expect Keenum to start even if Haskins starts, especially early on. I don't expect much from him.
Yep.
So going to the rookie wide receiver where I do expect something from is Kyler Murray. Another situation where, again, the weapons aren't going to be great. I know Larry Fitz is still there, but he does have David Johnson out of the backfield. And again, he's going to have that running upside. So maybe early on, I don't expect a ton from him. But as the season progresses, I think he'll be a pretty decent NFL quarterback and probably provide a decent floor on DraftKings games with that running ability. And I think he'll put together some nice games and some plus matchups. So I think he's someone to keep an eye on. Hopefully be on the trend earlier than later. People might be drawn to him week 1. I don't know who the matchup is, but I know week 2 they play the Ravens. That's obviously a matchup would not play him in, but if he struggles the first 2 weeks, but maybe he has some good moments, you can get on him at a cheap price early in the season with low ownership, and I think he will flash some games. So I think he's someone to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So,
all right, and then quickly, Joe Flacco. He's in Denver.
Yeah, he's in Denver.
Drew Lock got drafted to there.
Does not have much of a competition right now. But the biggest problem is Emmanuel Sanders coming back from an injury. Cortland Sutton, we saw a few good things from him last season. And same with Tim Patrick and a few other receivers kind of in the mix.
Deshaun Hamilton was fine.
But it's going to be tough. The good thing that I see is a lot of those receivers are fast. Joe Flacco, as we know from being Ravens fans, has that deep ball capability to sling it.
Low altitude, too.
Yeah, low altitude. He'll let that ball fly.
Probably to the safety. Again, he has no rushing upside. He'll probably put together some games of about 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. I don't think, for many all intensive purposes, we're too thrilled about his ability on DraftKings or FanDuel, but he'll probably put together 2 games where he's a top 5 play. But
I'm excited for him to get the chance there. Like I know he's excited because he's been saying in interviews how much he's focused and how he feels like this is opportunity for a second chance and stuff like that.
And he played well at the beginning of the season last year. We'll see how it translates out there. Again, it's a team that's going to want to run the ball. Phillip Lindsay, they have a couple guys out there, so they want to run the ball and play defense. So that was a formula for Joe in 2012 when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. But again, that doesn't mean much for fantasy purposes.
Yep.
And then everyone's darling Nick Foles. I don't expect much from him in Jacksonville. I'm going to be honest. I think he'll be one of those guys that will be very talked about and very highly played in those plus matchups. But again, another team that wants to play defense and run the ball. Limited weapons in Jacksonville. I just don't see him succeeding as much as he did in the playoffs with Philly.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a worse situation that he's being put in. So he will at least be bringing the team back up, in my opinion. I think that they will get better with him and maybe give the receivers a little more confidence too. And you can look at the receivers possibly as better options now. But still probably not a guy to play right away.
Yeah, I would agree, and hopefully the public still loves him and we can fade him.
That'd be very nice.
Yeah, so that's gonna be those 2 guys will be a week to week thing, but again, not someone I'm, especially in season long, not gonna draft these guys. All right, let's move on to running backs. The first one is obviously Le'Veon Bell, obviously with the New York Jets now. So we've seen him do this before, where he holds out. He's not holding out now, obviously, but with a new team, where he starts really slow. And I kind of expect the same thing here. New team, new system, second-year quarterback. I don't expect him to flash right out of the gates. I know he's saying a lot about how he's ready for 500 touches and all this kind of stuff. Darnold will love him as a check-down option. I have no doubt that he will be, once again, one of the highest receiving running backs in the game. But I just think right away he's not going to have that one-cut ability to fit in that system in the first couple weeks. But I do expect him down the line to be probably a top 5 running back in the league in terms of season long and probably one of the highest priced guys going down the road.
Yeah, for him, if you're going to target him in games early, I would kind of go more for taking him in a matchup where you see they're really bad against check down passes or against short yardage passes to the running back because that is where he will definitely thrive to start out with because that's almost a guarantee with him. Plays the Bills week 1, pretty fair price. We'll talk again. We'll get into week 1 in our time, but I kind of like the point where he's starting at. So he might end up being pretty high owned to make some rosters work.
Yeah, he's 7th on the running back list, so I definitely would expect him to be a little bit of a high owned play. So I do expect him to start slow, but I think overall he'll probably be a top 5 back again.
Love that price for Fournette, by the way. Anyway, so let's move on.
Yeah. Next is Mark Ingram, coming into a very run-heavy offense in Baltimore.
Are you sure?
They ran the ball 100% of the time last year. But seriously, he's coming into an offense where they have a run scheme in place that he fits. We all saw Gus Edwards, what he did last year, and no one had heard of him before. Now you bring in a guy that NFL just put on their list of the top 100 at 80, a guy that's going to run you over and run straight downhill and not mess around in the backfield, a guy that can run the RPO system so Lamar can hand him the ball, takes off through the hole and gets 15 yards a pop. I expect really big things from him. There's a couple other guys in the mix, like Gus Edwards. I think Kenneth Dixon might get cut, but again, the Ravens drafted a running back this year as well. So there are a couple guys in the mix, but I really do expect Ingram to be touching the ball 20 times a game, probably averaging close to 5 yards a carry, and definitely goal line work. So I think he will be a really nice option in a lot of weeks just because of volume, touchdown capability, and just the run heaviness of the Ravens. A team who we expect to be fairly solid, so hopefully some good game script where he gets a nice amount of touches and really thrives.
Yep. You'll probably, to start off the season, get him around the price of some other kind of established guys, but like Devontae Freeman coming off an injury, Tevin Coleman going in a new system in San Francisco, who we're about to talk about, I assume.
Yeah, we'll get
in that
him
backfield.
right now.
So it's like there's going to be a clump of guys around the price of like 5-1, like mid to bottom tier pricing that you can have good upside with at the beginning of the season because the DraftKings and whoever doesn't know how they're going to do in the new system.
Yeah, at that price for week 1, I mean, I love it. I don't see how I'm going to pivot off of that, honestly. I think all the reports that we've read is just like Ingram's doing what he does, and that's that. Like, he'll be very solid. So yeah, we'll move on to Tevin Coleman right now. In San Francisco now, and what is probably the most crowded backfield in the league. So I don't know what you do with this. Good luck figuring out who's going to take the ball here.
You got Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Matt Breida. You have Jeff Wilson Jr., who had a pretty good run last year even.
Raheem Mostert even had a couple games.
Yeah.
Good luck. I never was a fan of Tevin Coleman, so I'm very much off of him now, especially early on when we have no idea how that system's going to play out or how the rotation's going to play out. If a couple injuries happen, whatever the case may be, then yes, I would, hype him up. But at this point, I have no love for anyone in that backfield.
Looking in though, that's a good backfield. Like a pretty good. So like I like the 49ers chance, especially going against the Buccaneers week 1, but that could be a little more about some spread. By the way, when did you draft Jerick McKinnon last year?
Like the second round.
Like the second or
like
third
the third round. It
Not great.
Didn't work.
Not great. Didn't even get to week 1.
Yeah, well, whatever. All right. Touch on a drafted running back who didn't play that much in college, but Josh Jacobs, coming out of Alabama. He's now in Oakland. Obviously, Oakland has revamped their offense through Antonio Brown and Tyrell Williams, who we'll talk about when we get to wide receivers. But I'm always a Derek Carr fan, so I think that offense will be solid. And Josh Jacobs, from everything that I've been reading, is a true 3-down running back. I know he didn't play much in Alabama, but we've kind of seen that in college before and at Alabama where these guys just get kind of drowned out by the rest of their backfield because it's so good. And he did pop when he played. I don't care. Stop circling Doug Martin. Like I don't care.
Just saying.
He was behind Marshawn Lynch last year. That should tell you enough.
They also didn't like Doug Martin.
Yeah, they just don't. I from what I've seen, he is a true 3-down running back. He'll get goal line work. He's a guy that I'll look to target early on as the public's not on him. Probably at depressed prices. He's a guy I'll look to draft at in season long as a bench running back spot. I think he should have a pretty nice year. That passing game should open up the running game a little bit, and yeah.
Okay. I don't know so much about the early targeting. You will have the high upside. That's very true. So that would be like one of the guys you take a shot in the dark with. But that backfield is also a little bit of a mess because Jalen Richard, I remember, as having Marshawn Lynch, as having Doug Martin, for me, he takes a lot of receptions away from you. So it depends on what they're going to do with him.
Sure.
He might look like a 3-down back.
Positive game
They also
script.
said Chris Warren was a 3-down back and he didn't play a single snap last year.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly.
No. Okay. Just going off that positive game script, we expect Oakland to be a little bit better this year, which means Jalen Ricard had a lot of plays where they were down by 20, and he's the passing down back last year. So games that they'll be closer in or winning in most of the game because they will be a better team. That's kind of where I was looking at.
Hopefully. Hopefully it will be for Derek Carr's sake.
I love Derek Carr.
Yep.
Quick on some guys that might not matter too much, but they're one injury away. TJ Yeldon's now in Buffalo. There's some rumors McCoy might get cut. Obviously, we'll have to see on that. But otherwise, they just have Frank Gore, and they do like the other one a little bit. I can't remember his name right now.
In Buffalo?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can't remember his name. But yeah, TJ Yeldon, a little bit proven if McCoy got hurt, which he tends to do.
Yep.
Frank Gore is definitely getting up there in age, so he could be someone to target. And then Carlos Hyde's now in Kansas City. We know we have both Williams there, but Damian Williams and Darrell Williams both just kind of came on last season. I would definitely wait and see on them. We've seen running backs fizzle out after 8 to 10 games. So Carlos Hyde has been a solid running back before. Teams tend to not like him for whatever reason. So if there's an injury or if they're not playing well, whatever the case may be, Carlos Hyde could get put into a starting role in the best offense in the league. So just someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, some good things to target maybe at the back end of your draft, if you're doing the season long.
And just obviously with Bell gone, that means James Conner's the bell cow in Pittsburgh. Nothing changes there from last year.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to wide receivers. We'll start in the Oakland wide receiver realm. Tyrell and Antonio. Obviously, Antonio is Antonio. I think Derek Carr will look to him early and often. I think they're going to want to get him the ball as much as possible, as he will be their best playmaker. So not much to talk about with him. Maybe early on, chemistry's off. Antonio doesn't do too hot, but I think the targets will be there. He'll show up in a lot of games this year. But I do have some love for Tyrell Williams. He really had a nice little start to his career in LA/San Diego. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think he'll be a great number 2 option for them, and a nice guy for Derek Carr to target in that short to intermediate route stuff where Antonio is getting double covered or whatnot, and they're guarding against Josh Jacobs. Tyrell might be open a lot of the times. I would expect him to see 6 to 8 targets a game, and I think he can do a lot with those. He scores, a decent amount of touchdowns. He can catch the bomb. He can do some things after the catch. I do think he's a guy that will go kind of under the radar and someone that you can really target in season long and in early weeks of DraftKings.
Yeah, he can definitely be a high flyer at times too. Derek Carr really didn't have that guy to show off his arm. I don't know how much of an arm Derek Carr really has, but like Seth Roberts is probably the fast guy who has.
He has Jordy, and Jordy was at the back end of his career, so he's getting a huge upgrade. So this is also to say I think Derek Carr is a viable option.
And when he had Amari got some deep balls.
Right. So I think if teams overplay Antonio Brown and don't think about Tyrell Williams, I think he'll have a really nice year.
Dangerous.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about Randall Cobb in Dallas.
Oh God, quick.
Okay. Slot guy Dak likes to throw those short intermediate passes because he has no arm. So Cobb should be fine.
Injury prone, be careful. But if you draft him, yeah, he does open up a lot of opportunities for him and Dak Prescott to have a better option.
He'll probably be fine.
Switch over to Buffalo, who now got
Cole Beasley, John Brown.
Yep.
So Josh Allen, we know, has a massive arm that helps John Brown. We saw him with Flacco actually have a really nice start to the season. When Lamar took over, John Brown had no part of the offense. So John Brown now going to a place where you're going to have a quarterback. He wasn't that accurate.
You're going to have a quarterback.
I was meant to say more, but I was talking fast.
You're not wrong.
A quarterback that will throw the ball more than Lamar did and down the field a little bit more. So John Brown could be nice as a one-off a few times during the year. Someone to look at if he can get over the top of the safeties. Cole Beasley should be good in again that short intermediate route, helping out Josh Allen with the accuracy part of his game. But we know that Josh Allen just likes to take off and run most of the time. So definitely a wait and see on their targets type thing, but maybe see what their chemistry looks like. But could be a little bit of an interesting, sneaky couple plays.
Also, just for the Bills, because the Bills always have had a good defense, always have good play on that side of the ball. So adding a few weapons on offense could be dangerous for them.
Yeah. Bills always kind of outdo what their projection is, so they should be a decent team that probably beats a couple good teams this year. And we're just going to talk about the plight of the Giants wide receivers. Good luck to Eli Manning and Daniel Jones. Corey Coleman tore his ACL. Sterling Shepard looks to be like he'll probably be fine for regular season.
Still hurt, though.
Still
and he
hurt.
keeps getting hurt.
And Golden Tate is suspended. So,
first 4 weeks, not great. Giants under.
You could probably play a couple of defenses against them. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but definitely something to think about, especially if we look at Sterling Shepard's health. We know Saquon's a monster. We know Evan Ingram will be pretty solid, but Saquon should probably get 12 catches in those first couple weeks.
Cowboys defense, not bad, week 1.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of sacks. All right.
So that we didn't go into tight ends. I think just a quick hit on tight ends. I think Mike Gesicki will have a good year. He's not new anywhere, but he's a second-year guy in Miami. I think that the introduction. Oh, that's who we forgot on quarterbacks. Josh Rosen in Miami.
We'll see.
I think he plays well when he's mad. I think he's mad. I liked him coming out of college.
But where do you see him being mad before?
At UCLA.
When was he mad?
When he was down by 40 to Texas A&M.
I don't know anything about college, so don't mind me.
I'm just saying, I think, more to the point, he's a gamer. So I think
he was pissed at getting drafted 11th.
Well,
it was 11th, right?
Something like that.
Whenever he got drafted, he was pissed because he was the third.
I don't think he was that bad. I think the Cardinals overreacted. Do I think they got someone good in Kyler? Yes, but I think they overreacted. I think Rosen will be a decent quarterback. He'll be fine for Kenny Stills. They lost Danny Amendola. I was talking about Gesicki. Gesicki, I think, will be a decent option. This year in a couple games. So also decent, maybe low end tight end option for season long.
Do they still have Devontae Parker? I assume so. Maybe not. But anyway, another good thing about them is their season win totals is at 5, and now it's at 4.5 on FanDuel that I'm seeing. So that could be a good bet also.
Yeah, that was one of them I wrote down. He's on the Dolphins.
It says Dolphins. Okay.
Yeah.
So you never know. He could always come back too, but
probably not.
not great.
So that's about all that. Defenses, real quick. Lions obviously added Mike Daniels. It's gonna be tough to run against them. All right.
Do we have any other segments?
We were just gonna touch on the Hall of Fame game.
Okay, yeah.
And week 1 pricing.
A real quick preview to the Hall of Fame game because we want to be able to do that later in the week. Hopefully, we see some contests.
We haven't seen DraftKings or FanDuel put up their contests,
and it is Sunday,
and the game's Thursday.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that we get some contests up because
we will kill the contest. We have more experience in this than most people. Most people will just be wanting to get the itch to play, and they'll see contests and be like, "Ooh, let's play the contest. Let's play all these players." No, you don't play any of the players. You play the third string quarterback for one of the teams. So it's probably Atlanta, right? After Matt Chubb and Matt Ryan, there's one other guy.
Yeah, it's Kurt Benkert.
We're going to be playing him. We're going to be playing both defenses. The total's at 34. And even before seeing the total, we knew we were going to play both defenses because history has proven that you're going to be able to cash in a cash entry by playing a defense at captain. That's almost proven to work. And we said we were going to do it last year and didn't do it on half our lineups and kicked ourselves in the butt.
The only, I guess, devil's advocate I'll play with playing a defense at captain is you have no idea which one is going to be better because it's a bunch of third-string guys. The game just gets so sloppy that the defenses end up getting turnovers and stuff. If you play one at captain, you hope that they get a return touchdown or whatnot. There's nothing for Matt Ryan to prove in this game. There's nothing for Matt Schaub to prove in this game. Honestly, I think Kurt Benkert will play the whole game, if not 3 quarters.
He might.
So...
The thing is, they call us to sign a guy. You never know. It's
a little late for that, but
that does happen.
Yeah,
at times.
Both defenses, Kurt Benkert. We're looking at Tony Brooks James right now, but we haven't done our in-depth research as no contests have come out yet. So So yeah, I think we'll have a good edge as long as DraftKings and FanDuel allows us to do that.
We're really hoping to see something to make some money, and
Yeah.
for all 20 people who watch this video, you will hopefully win some money too.
Tell your friends about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that pops up. Anything on Week 1 pricing that you care about? I mean, DraftKings just released their Week 1 pricing today. For those that didn't see it, just got us in the mood to talk about football.
There's not, and all the football on ESPN has been awesome, but there's nothing too much to like kind of get into right now. We kind of already went over what we want to. Week 1 is so long away. I feel like there will be a guaranteed preseason contest. There might just be no Hall of Fame game.
Right. I think they'll do preseason, definitely for preseason Week 1, and we'll be there for that. But at this point, we don't see Hall of Fame up. Might have talked to them about it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, look out for us going forward. If Hall of Fame comes out, we'll tweet out when we're recording. If the game's Thursday, we'll probably try to record Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Should a contest become available?
Yeah. Always follow us on Twitter at DraftThunderDFS. I believe it is. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
We strive definitely in football season. We could put out MLB content. We could put out NBA content, but this is where we do best.
I mean, we've talked about it before, but this is going on our 5th year of doing this. Talking about it for the 2nd year. We've been doing the research like this the whole time we've been playing, so we've made decent money doing it. We want to see the results pay off for you guys. So shout us out, hit us up on Twitter. Any questions, any win totals you want to talk about, we're open to anything. If you just want to talk football with us, let's hear it. Tell us what players you think are your sleepers. Tell us if any of our players you think aren't going to be very good. If you're a fan of one of these teams and you have an insider edge, talk to us,
Yeah, we definitely encourage messages. We got a few last year, and we helped out some players who might not have been able to cash before that.
Yeah.
So
comment on our YouTube page, comment on our Twitter page.
We need to hear feedback. We would love to hear feedback. It keeps us going.
Yeah, it helps us. It helps us be better with these recordings. It helps ultimately helps you guys. So
yeah,
let us know.
Yep. And I think that's it. So we look forward to hopefully talking to you guys later this week about the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, if not, look out for something probably middle of the week next week for preseason Week 1.
All right, stay tuned.